Number 33.
Here's a debut song that debuts higher than any other. Coming in at 33, the Captain and Tennille, a husband and wife team with Love Will Keep Us Together. The Captain and Tennille at number 33 with a song written by Neil Sedaka and Howard Greenfield. Love Will Keep Us Together as the countdown rolls on.
The hits from coast to coast.
Well, now I have the latest smash by the superstar duo whose romantic songs and image have made them the sweethearts of pop music. You know, they even got married on Valentine's Day. But the Captain and Tennille tell us that it was hardly a traditional flowers and lace wedding. To begin with, they got married on the spur of the moment, so they had to drive to Nevada. They drove all the way to Virginia City. That's an old mining town in the hills above Reno. Now, they went there because it sounded like a romantic, unusual place to get married, right? But Toni Tennille tells us that her wedding to the Captain was anything but romantic. Turned out the only place in town to get married was a small wedding chapel adjoining the Silver Queen Saloon. It's open 24 hours a day, it's free, and it comes equipped with a full-time marrying judge. So Toni and Daryl went looking for the judge. And where did they find him? That's right next door in the saloon. And the judge told them they needed 2 witnesses. And since the only 2 people around were a couple of slightly plastered regular customers of the saloon, Toni and Daryl asked them to come along. Toni says she wasn't sure the witnesses would even be able to stay on their feet during the short service, but they did need 2 witnesses. Fortunately, the whole ceremony took about 5 minutes. Now, that's hardly a storybook wedding for the sweethearts of pop music. But I guess you know they're sure living happily ever after. This week, their latest hit is already up to number 23 in its second week on the survey. Here are Mr. and Mrs. Daryl Dragon and Can't Stop Dancing. The Captain and Tennille on American Top 40. They debuted last week all the way up at number 30. This week all the way up to 23 with Can't Stop Dancing. And this next smash in the countdown is by an act who cut their first record in a garage. The Captain and Tennille told us that it happened several years ago when they were just starting out. They decided to create their own big break. First, they went into a small makeshift studio in the garage of a friend and cut a love song that Toni had written for Daryl. Next, they spent $250 of their own money to have 500 copies made. They delivered several of them to disc jockeys in Los Angeles. And then they climbed into their old camper truck and drove thousands of miles through 22 states to personally hand-deliver their record to 130 radio stations. Well, their song did become a hit in L.A., but without the distribution of a major label behind them, it never made the national charts. But the local success of the record did attract the attention of A&M Records, and when Daryl and Toni got back into town, A&M immediately signed them to a recording contract. And their first release on the label was a million seller that turned into the record of the year, Love Will Keep Us Together. And they followed it by re-releasing that first record Daryl and Toni had cut in the garage. The song was The Way I Want to Touch You. And this time it pushed all the way into the top 5 on the national charts. This week, their latest hit is up to number 14. The Captain and Tennille with Can't Stop Dancing. Oh! The Captain and Tennille with their follow-up to Muskrat Love. This week at number 14, moving up to, it's Can't Stop Dancing. This is Casey Kasem on American Top 40 in Hollywood. And now, the debut song by the husband and wife team who used to tour with the Beach Boys as backup musicians. And the wife used to get thrown out of the concert halls because the security guards at the Beach Boys concerts all thought she was a gate-crashing groupie. We got the story from Toni Tennille, who along with her husband, Captain Daryl Dragon, used to travel with the Beach Boys playing keyboards and singing backup vocals. They were with the group for about a year during the early 70s, and every night they played a new location. But Toni says when she tried to go backstage to set up for the show, every night without fail, she got stopped. You see, the Beach Boys had never used a girl in their act before, and the guards figured that Toni was just another overly enthusiastic fan. So they wouldn't let her through until some recognizable member of the band came out and gave them the okay. But Toni's problems still weren't over, because when the show was finally about to begin and Toni tried to take her place on the stage, another set of guards would stop her and try to throw her out. And then, again, a Beach Boy would have to be called to rescue her. Well, this week, the former backup musicians for the Beach Boys, the Captain and Tennille, debut on AT40 with their latest hit. Coming in at number 36, their song is You Never Done It Like That.
You're so terrific. Done it like that. Ooh.
Written by the songwriting team of Neil Sedaka and Howard Greenfield, the Captain and Tennille, and their latest debuting at number 36 on American Top 40, You Never Done It Like That. Toni Tennille was born in Montgomery, Alabama. Daryl Dragon is a native of Los Angeles. Several years ago, they teamed up in music and then in marriage. And this week, their 10th chart hit is up to number 28 on Billboard's National Singles Survey. Here are the Captain and Tennille and You Never Done It Like That. Survey song number 28, moving up 4 third week on the chart. A song that was written by Howard Greenfield and Neil Sedaka and sung by the Captain and Tennille. Well, now we're up to the first top 40 hit in over a year by the popular duo who say their weekly network TV show nearly put an end to their recording career. Now, you might figure that having a network television show would be great exposure for a recording act, but the Captain and Tennille told us it isn't always so. Back in 1976, they were offered a weekly program of their own by one of the networks. And against the advice of their own record company, Daryl and Toni decided to accept. But Toni said it was rough going from the start. First of all, she says, the show took them out of their familiar and successful musical element and put them into sort of a formula comedy format used on several other variety shows at the time. So, when Toni and Daryl stepped in front of the cameras each week, instead of doing what they do best, making music, Toni says they were forced to do comedy skits and corny jokes about Daryl's hat. She told us it didn't take long before she and the Captain had developed a super straight, middle-of-the-road image, and in the highly competitive rock market, that doesn't sell records. In fact, Toni says many program directors at radio stations around the country began refusing to even listen to their new records. Well, the problem continued to snowball, with radio airplay and record sales dropping off in a big way, until finally the recording career of the Captain and Tennille began to look like an endangered species. And that's when Daryl and Toni took matters into their own hands. First, they stopped doing the regular TV show and increased their schedule of concert appearances around the country. Next, they taped a couple of TV specials that portrayed them as serious contemporary music makers. Finally, after more than a year of hard work rebuilding their image, Toni says radio stations and record-buying fans are once again beginning to pick up on the Captain and Tennille. And currently, they're back in the countdown with their first top 40 hit in over a year. At number 24 this week, here are the Captain and Tennille. The Captain's the one with the funny hat. And their hit, You Never Done It Like That.
You're so terrific.
The Captain and Tennille on American Top 40 at number 24, moving up 4, 4th week on the chart with You Never Done It Like That.
The hits from coast to coast.
Now we're up to the song by the recording act who became famous and successful and instantly recognizable by a certain trademark, a sailor's cap. But where most celebrities will hang on to a famous trademark, this duo formally buried the symbol that people knew them by. That's like Hugh Hefner giving up bunnies. Well, in the case of these recording artists, the Captain and Tennille, their well-known trademark, the Captain's hat, was beginning to hurt their career. Toni Tennille told us, we were really trapped in an image because our first single, Love Will Keep Us Together, was very happy, bright, young-sounding. And people thought that we were much younger than we were. And it made it difficult when we wanted to grow and progress. So on their network TV special in 1977, the Captain and Tennille sent their trademark to a watery grave. They staged a New Orleans-style funeral, complete with a military honor guard and a Dixieland band that led the funeral procession from the Latin Quarter to the wharf. And there at the water's edge, television's Barney Miller, Hal Linden, read a eulogy to Captain Daryl Dragon's hat. Then they just dumped it into the water. It was a joke for the sake of the TV show. But for the Captain and Tennille, it represented a break from the image that was tied into their early success, and it set them free to try new and more sophisticated things, like the smash they're now climbing the top 10 with, Do That To Me One More Time. At number 3 this week, here are the Captain and Tennille. Up 2 more notches this week to number 3, that's the Captain and Tennille with Do That To Me One More Time. I'm Mike Cleary, in for Casey Kasem, and the 2 biggest songs are coming right up.
The hits from coast to coast.